The purpose of this video is to give you a working definition or a working understanding of English. To help you understand or help you visualize the spin that we're going to be talking about, I'm going to use the timbal here as the cue ball. So hopefully the stripe part of the ball will help you see how the ball is spinning. Also, I think it's helpful for you to understand that when people talk about English, there's a lot of different terms that they use, and often they use them interchangeably, and they all basically mean the same thing. You might hear the term right-hand English or left-hand English, or right cue ball or left cue ball. You might hear them refer to English as, referencing a clock face, like 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, for example. All of these things mean the same thing. English is side spin that is placed on the cue ball by striking it on either side of its vertical axis. So if you can imagine cutting the cue ball in half, a line bisecting the cue ball in half, and then the side spin that you would create by striking it on either side of that line. That is the basic definition of English. This being right-handed English, and this being left-handed English. Okay? To make the cue ball spin counterclockwise, you would place right-handed English like this. If you strike the cue ball, it's going to cause it to spin in motion like that. Alright? To make the cue ball spin clockwise, you would strike the cue ball on the left side of the vertical axis, and to make it spin like this as it's going in motion. When you use right-handed English, making the cue ball spin counterclockwise, when it goes into the rail, it makes the cue ball bounce off in this direction. Conversely, if you strike the cue ball with left-handed English, making it spin clockwise, it will bounce off in this direction. Now, it's important to remember, it's important to understand that English, the utilization of right or left-handed English does not affect the carom angle coming off of the object ball. That is manipulated by using top and bottom cue ball, but that's the subject of another video. There are 3 variables that affect the amount of side spin that's placed on the cue ball. 1, how far from the center, or how far from the center axis the cue ball is struck. The further away you get from center, the more spin is placed on the cue ball. Secondly, and this has more to do with the ball's interaction with the rail, the slower or the less speed that is used on the cue ball, the greater the effect of the English. And this is basically why this is true. The slower the ball is hit, when it hits the rail, it means that the ball has more time to interact with the rail. The English has more time to take onto the rail, making the angle wider. Okay. Conversely, if you hit the ball really hard, it bounces off the rail quicker, and there's less time for the English to take effect on the rail. And then the third factor that affects or that impacts the effect of English is the consistency of the rails itself. There are no 2 rails that play the same. Temperature conditions, humidity conditions, the simple aging of the rails on one table, no rails are ever the same, and that really affects the outcome of your impartation of English on the cue ball. Another factor that English impacts, or where English is employed, is reducing the effect of throw on a cut shot. Basically, if you use knowing, or when you make a cut shot, when the object ball touches when the cue ball touches the object ball, the two meet. There's friction, and it carries the object ball a little offline. Now, if you use English, in this case, it would be left hand or outside English. It would cause the cue ball to roll off of the object ball, thus reducing the throw effect. But understanding throw and all the factors that go into reducing throw or limiting throw is the subject of another video. An important thing to understand about English is that when you use, depending on the type of English that you use, and I've covered this in another video, it causes deflection, or another way of saying it is it causes the cue ball to curve off of line. And that's a very difficult, it's very difficult to compensate for that deflection, which is why many pros try to avoid English as much as they can in their pattern play. They try to play, they try to find position patterns that limit the amount of English that they have to use, because it is so very difficult to consistently compensate for the swerve or the squirt. That's another term for saying deflection or curve that English creates. Finally, when you place English on the cue ball, say for example I place right hand English and I cause the cue ball to spin in a counterclockwise way on its way to the object ball. When the cue ball reaches the object ball with English on it, with side spin, the two balls briefly meet. Okay, there's friction, and then there's a gearing action that causes a transfer of English between the cue ball and the object ball. And this really comes into play when you are aiming and you're calculating a bank shot. You always have to remember that if you use English on the cue ball, there is a transfer of that English to the object ball. It can drastically alter the outcome of a bank shot.